Happy Halloween, everybody. Jaravee Boonchant, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, has made notable strides since turning professional in 2019, and some key stats and achievements. So far, she has participated in multiple LPGA events, and she consistently showcases her talents against the top competitors of those events. Best finishes, she's received several top 10s, and before the LPGA, she played golf at Arizona State University, where she earned numerous accolades. She's been ranked within the top 100 in the Women's World Rankings, and she is definitely known for her accuracy off the tee, which is crucial for competitive play. But let's take a look at her cause and effect and see what you can try and learn and use in your golf swing. So we're going to take a look today at how she uses her lower plane, and this is what I really recommend that the average amateur try to do, and it only comes from turning. The more you can turn, the better odds you are keep your hands on that lower plane, which is signified by that long yellow line. Now you'll notice that the centeredness, which is the arches of the heel straight up to the sky, runs right through where that lower plane line is, and her Barney purple spine angle line, which shows that she is very centered. Now obviously arm length will play a part in where your arms sit. She is reaching out slightly, which is okay for a driver, just because she's probably standing a little bit taller than she would with an iron, and when you do bend over more, your arms tend to pull inside of you. But the most important thing is to look at that lower plane work. Now the right side of the screen, we're also going to keep this up there to show you how she stays very connected, and even though she takes that club way back there, it is not necessarily your hands and arms that break away, but mostly the turn. So let's get started and go right where the club gets to parallel to the ground, and we can see that the arms are slightly lower of the plane line. We have lost a little bit of shoulder tilt, but however, this could also be the setup. Now when your right shoulder is further down, it's set up naturally because our right hand is lower. This will give the illusion of the left shoulder raising up, but she's not necessarily coming up out of her posture, because if you take a look at her head height stays about the same. Now she will correct her shoulder tilting right at that midway point to the top of the swing. So you'll see right over here, she is back to being perpendicular to that spine angle. Let's back up a little bit and go right to where that midway point is. So this is where her hands are right over that centeredness of her body. And this is a great model to look at. So once you get set up, your hands need to meet that lower plane line and where your spine angle meets without losing your posture. And she does a great job. Now on the right side of the screen, we can see how she is still keeping her hands out in front of her shoulders. Now this is key because she is not breaking away from the center. In fact, she is taking her starting position and just basically turning her whole body in unison. So if you look at the right side of the screen, look at how she starts her swing. She just basically turns her whole body, specifically with the hips. Now remember, for those amateurs at home that suffer from shoulder turn, the quickest way to alleviate that is to turn your hips more. And it's okay to have more engaged hips as long as it helps you get your shoulders to turn, which will allow your hands to get right in that center point, because that is key. Most of our amateurs on the left side of the screen, we're up over here already, pulling our hands up too high too soon, which does limit your motion, specifically with your rotation. But let's take a look at how much longer she stays on that lower plane line. She goes still on that lower plane line. Right about here is where she starts to raise away from that lower plane line. But this just shows you how much turn she is establishing. We go from this point on to the top of the swing. She does almost get to that upper plane line, and we can see the club has crossed the line slightly, but it is still pretty neutral compared to our left forearm, which shows that there is significant amount of roll, but not too much where you're starting to open that club face. So for you at home, you want to look at where that left forearm is, and your club face should be matching that. Now, keep in mind, if you have a closed club face or an open club face, that doesn't mean it is wrong, but what I'm trying to help you out with is to recognize a basic neutral swing, and you can work on cause and effect from that point on. Now the key is, let's go to the right side of the screen and let's redraw these new lines, and we'll draw them in red. Now red doesn't mean they're bad, we're just trying to show you the difference between where the green ones were. You can see your hands are in the center of her chest, and now we take a look at, we're going to connect both shoulders. We're going to connect the left shoulder straight to that left hand, and the the right shoulder to that same hand position, and we can see that the hands have moved slightly to the right side of the center, but they're not crossing the right shoulder. So you at home, this is a funny angle to get to, but what we're trying to get across is sometimes we see the amateurs not turning enough and their hands have to get to that position. So essentially the hands cross way over in this area, and now you have disconnected from your center, your power source. That is where the power comes from. The power comes from the center rotating. The role of the hands and arms is just to hold onto this angle that you create while you rotate through, and then as you get down to the impact, your hands will release naturally. We don't throw our hands, and typically we see people throwing their hands when they've disconnected that, to throw them back out in front. Remember, the top of the swing to downswing happens in a fraction amount of time. It's actually 30% of your total golf swing time comes from top to impact. But let's get going. We're going to keep going through. Let's delete some of these lines here so it's not too confusing, and we will go ahead for the downswing. Now, what we'll see is the triangle action. We're going to look at which way will they move from the top of the swing to impact. We can see that they are going to fall right down that line. That is beautiful. Now, there is no need for her to get her hands to drop down because she is more connected with her left arm lower than that top plane line. We have seen other people get their hands way up here. Now, the one issue with that is they had better get their hands to move down first before they go towards the golf ball. But since she is way back behind her, I mean, if you take a look at where her hands are in relation to her power source, let's draw this in green, we can see that she is well behind her center. In other words, her hands are behind this blue line, so she is perfectly in line to just go ahead and let those hands pull down naturally while she rotates, and we can see that move occur right here. They fall down. Now that's going to pull the club down into the slot. What do we notice on the right side of the screen? Look at the connection here. We still see the hands now doing a pretty good job of staying connected to the chest while she rotates her hips. Upper body rotates as well, working on the sequencing. And you also notice on the left side of the screen, we see this diving of the knees. So from the top of the swing, we see them compressed down like a spring. Why do you think she needs to do this? Obviously, she's dropping down. She's trying to hit up on this ball because it's on a tee. But take a look from this point to impact. Watch what the legs do. They're still in that braced position, getting ready to push up. Her club is now below that plane, which is what she's looking for, so she can swing up and get the reduced spin rate and increased launch, which is the goal of these tour pros. But take a look at the legs from this point on. Boom, they go straight up. So she is now jumping back up into the golf ball, swinging up. You can see her hands finish a little bit higher than they were at the top of the swing, and I apologize about all these lines. Let's back it up at impact. Right here we can see, look at that, hands are perfectly in front of the chest. So you can see the hands don't really do much with her swing. Hands and arms, they just basically stay connected to the power source. Even well past impact, we can still see that they're still out in front of that chest. So what can you learn about this is if you do have the body turn and the flexibility, that will reduce your arm on the golf swing. If you lack turn and flexibility, guess what is left to try and make some circular motion and hit the golf ball? Unfortunately, it's those flimsy, Gumby hands and arms. So I hope that helps you try and stay more connected. The only way to stay connected is to get your body involved. If you're not working with a coach, do yourself a favor, go search one out, reputable. If you need help, let me know in the comments. If you do like this, hit the like, share, subscribe. Don't forget, this Sunday we go live. Hope that helps you. See you next week. Fairways and Greens.